Major League Wrestling, MLW. My love and my passion for that company drove me to create this channel that I've called Grading on a Curve. Now, I've explained it, but bear with me. I'll do it quickly here. Grading on a Curve is based on the idea that no American company can live up to Pro Wrestling Noah. In its presentation, in its style, in its wrestlers, everything. No American company can do it, but I want to follow an American company because I'm an American, damn it. And while I will continue to follow, promote, and love Pro Wrestling Noah, I want a homegrown company because since I was 7 years old, I had one. Jim Crockett Promotions. Then it was Ring of Honor. And then a little bit later, I found MLW. I've tried everything else. I've tried Impact. Hell, I've tried WWE back and forth over the years, but no. I don't know if that's ever going to work, and I say I don't know because maybe there's some hope in Triple H taking over. Maybe, but I'm not holding my breath on that. I'm going to keep this channel going, but I'm going to remove MLW from this channel. Okay, because I've gone back and I've watched this past season of MLW. I think I've got 2 or 3 programs to go. Okay, so I've watched most of it. You have heard my thoughts on Microman. There is a video on this channel giving my thoughts on Microman. Let me explain something. Outside Microman, and to a much lesser extent, Cesar Duran and the Lucha Underground approach and style of presentation, MLW is still amazing. And I'm going to make a video shortly for my MLW Tonight channel, which I'm here to talk about, where I'm going to tell you why they're amazing in more depth than this video. I'm just here to announce that Grading on a Curve will continue, and on this channel, I will discuss newsworthy items from around the wrestling world and why I think they are what's wrong with professional wrestling. Or maybe I'll start watching some WWE here and there and tell you what I think needs to change still, even with Vince McMahon gone. Stuff like that. I don't know. I haven't completely decided. But I'm going to keep this channel around because I think there are always things here or there that pop up that need addressed by someone such as myself who misses what pro wrestling used to be. Now, MLW. MLW, outside of Microman, which I ignore, fast forward, I'll have nothing to do with. I won't report on it. I won't discuss it good or bad. I'm going to ignore Microman segments as if they legitimately don't exist. And we will see how long they continue in the next season of MLW. I have no idea. But as long as they continue, I will continue to ignore them as if they're not there. Because outside Microman, MLW is done about as close to Jim Crockett Promotions and UWF, Bill Watts' Mid-South UWF and World Class. They're as close as any company gets. And that's why I fell in love with them. And that's why something like Microman, or like I said, to a lesser extent, the Lucha Underground style of stuff, gets to me so badly. Yes, I'm angry about it. But more than anger, I'm hurt. And I don't talk that way too much because, especially modern day wrestling fans will just make fun of it. They'll post things like, old man yells at clouds. And it's still real to me, damn it. They will post that ad nauseum over and over and over. And while that doesn't really get to me, it's pointless. No one makes logical arguments. No one makes intelligent responses to the things I have to say because there are none. You either like shitty things or you don't. You're in one camp or you're in the other. But when MLW came out with Microman and Lucha Underground style of presentation, it hurt me as a wrestling fan. Make fun of me all you want for that. I don't care. I've been a wrestling fan since I was 7 years old. I'm now 52, going on 53. I have been involved in independent professional wrestling for around 10 years. So, excuse me, I think I have a right to tell you that when a wrestling company that I promoted and treasured and adored, pretty much as I do Pro Wrestling Noah, started to do things that horrified me, shocked me, sickened me, that as a wrestling fan, I was hurt by that because I had finally found a place that I could embrace in this country. The first place legitimately since Jim Crockett Promotions, Ring of Honor to an extent. I was a big fan of Ring of Honor, but they did not have the presentation that MLW did or does. They just never did. I'm not saying it was a bad presentation or production. It just wasn't what MLW does. What does MLW do? Typically, and hopefully soon I can say always. That's why MLW Tonight's coming back. Because I believe the day's coming where I'm going to be able to say always, once again. What MLW typically does is presents wrestling as if it's unproduced. You know what I mean? Like, of course, anything that is on television or YouTube is produced. It has a production team. Of course it does. Even backyard shit has some type of production to it. Okay? Not stupid. But Court Bauer and MLW has this way of putting on a wrestling show, much like Jim Crockett Promotions did, where it looks like the wrestlers just drove to the venue. And in Jim Crockett Promotions days, it was a tiny little TV studio. They drove to the venue, parked their cars, got out, went in their respective locker rooms, heels and baby faces. As a fan, that's what you think, right? What's really true, who knows? But this is what we have in our minds, and it's what I want to keep in my minds. We got the heels over here and the baby faces over here, right? There are scheduled matches that is posted somewhere that they see, right? Maybe they get it ahead of time. Maybe they get there and look at a board. Who knows? But there are matches posted, and that's what happens on this show. In the mix of that happening, there are interview times slotted. Maybe before a match, maybe after a match, maybe backstage. But there are unproduced segments. Yes, I know that ultimately they are really produced, but they're not presented as if they are really produced. That's my problem with the Lucha Underground presentation. The Lucha Underground presentation is clearly scripted and produced, and it drives me batty. The old MLW, which I hope is going to return, backstage segments seemed random. Oh, our camera crew caught up with. Oh, hold on. There's something going on in the back. Can we get that? Can we get a shot of that? That kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, a shaky camera, not the whole time, but like someone's running with a camera to the backstage area and it settles and we see what's going on. Or it's caught earlier on tape and had to be edited and put together so they could put it on TV to show the attack that happened. Or the wrestler requested a camera crew for when they pulled into the building. MLW didn't used to do the stuff where, oh look, a camera's magically here. In the midst of this happening, there was a camera. It wasn't shot like a television show. I despise when wrestling is shot like a television show, and MLW never used to do that. They used to shoot as if, look, here's the venue, like I said, the wrestlers show up, they go to their locker rooms, they participate in their matches, they participate in their scheduled TV interview times, and occasionally there's a random event or two that happens during a show that the cameras catch up to, have to hurry and get to, are called to by a wrestler ahead of time, what have you. It doesn't look produced. It doesn't look contrived. It doesn't look scripted. I can't tell you the joy that brings me. That is how wrestling should be shot. It is a combat sport, a scheduled combat sport with scheduled interview times, and the wrestlers are just so crazy, so flamboyant, so out there, that sometimes they'll lose their cool and do something crazy and the cameras will catch up to it. Sometimes one of them will bribe a cameraman or grab a cameraman, much like a couple episodes on Fusion ago. I don't know which episode it was. I should have looked it up before I cut this video. But there was an episode where Richard Holiday and Alicia Atout came in a limousine. They didn't know who it was. Oh, a limousine has just pulled up. Love that. We don't know who this is. What's going on here? And it's Holiday and Atout. The reveal is made. And they tell a cameraman to get in the limousine with them. They call him by name, Howard or Henry or I forget. But they clearly know who he is from having filmed with MLW in the past. And they tell him, hey, get in here. Here's what you get in here. Here's what you're going to do. They didn't just start with the limousine driving down the road and them talking on a camera. Well, hello, I'm Richard Holiday. No, because that makes, why the hell is there a camera in their car? Do they have their own production company? What's going on? No, tell us how the camera got in there. That was beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. I'm thinking in the past when Brian Pillman Jr. was attacked as he came into the venue for his scheduled time on the MLW television program, not show, on the MLW scheduled fighting program, and was attacked as he came in the door. I think it was by Injustice, if I remember right. And it was showed to us as this happened earlier, and you could tell the camera crew was coming up to it as it was happening, and it wasn't shot on a tripod. I don't want shaky cam all the time. That's not what I'm talking about. But when something is provisional, right? It wasn't scheduled to happen. A camera shouldn't be set up as if it was planned, right? That's what it looked like. It was like a cameraman was standing there moving the angles around trying to catch what was going on. I think sometimes wrestlers even bumped into it. And I get the hell out of the way, stuff like that. We're not here to be filmed. We're here to beat the shit out of this guy. That's what I'm talking about. It makes all the difference in the world. And it's why I love MLW when it's done right. And for the longest time, it was always done right. And I'm bringing MLW tonight back because I want to believe with all of my heart that Court Bauer is going to bring it back to how it once was. Because that's what separates MLW from everything else. No one else does it that way. No one. And there are no signs that anyone's going to ever do it that way. And if MLW gives up on it, all I have is Noah, and God, I love Noah. It is so amazing. It's not shot the way I'm talking about. It's just fights. Noah is presented in King's Road style. They don't tell stories backstage. They don't tell stories at the interview position. The only stories King's Road wrestling tells, that style of wrestling tells, is in the ring. And they do great at that, okay? In-ring stuff is amazing. Their interviews after the show are done much like MMA interviews. They catch them all sweaty and hot after just having fought in a match, and they get their thoughts. That's cool. I love it, and I always will, as long as it stays that way. Noah is extremely hard-hitting in the ring. You don't get many flips and dives. Even when a luchador shows up, he's not a typical luchador, not in his style, not when he works in Noah. It's very, very hard-hitting and believable. MLW does a little bit of lucha that I don't love. They do some hardcore that I don't love. But I get over that simply because of their old school American production style. And that is make it look as least produced as possible. Make it look like these guys came together. Some people like each other, some people don't. There are things that are scheduled, there are things that aren't. It's a little bit chaotic, but not shoot TV or whatever that goofball called it back in the day. Vince Russo. Not that. Not shock TV. No, not that. For God's sake, not that. But American wrestling, as I love it, is a show that just looks unproduced. It's just happening as it happens. And MLW gave me that for the longest time. And they still do about 70% of the time. But that 30% that's not, with Microman and Cesar Duran, looks like every other shitty product out there today. Impact, WWE, AEW. I can't say Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor doesn't exist. They exist in name and in championship belts, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. And if they ever do exist as an actual show again, it will be shot like AEW is shot, because that's who owns it. MLW is the last beacon of hope to give me American wrestling done right. And by God, I don't want that to go away. I was elated when I found MLW, and I'm elated to bring MLW Tonight back to you in September when MLW returns with their new season. I'm going to have an MLW special on there. It'll be out everywhere I post, where I'm going to go over what's gone on this past season, not every little detail, but in general, and go over their roster and tell you what we can look forward to in the next season, at least according to my perspective. Again, ignoring the little stuff, if you know what I mean. And we'll go from there. But grading on a curve will remain. We'll talk about issues that I think need addressed. But MLW will be moving away from this channel. This channel will just be talking about the shitty stuff in American wrestling, of which there is plenty. But MLW will be going on over to my old and now new again channel, MLW Tonight and I hope I see you there.